Hi, and welcome to another episode of the What's Running You podcast. We are here finishing out our little series on the What's Running You Hero's Journey. We've come to the last step, step 5. Here we go, we did it. Step 5, wins the battle, comes back transformed. Yeah, we did it. We made it. It's been a journey. So let's go over the 5 steps. 1, a character wants something. 2, goes on an adventure to get it. 3, meets a guide, makes a plan. 4, takes action and faces obstacles. 5, wins the battle and comes back transformed. So there we go. All right, we're at that final battle transformation piece. And we've been through the hard stuff. We've been through the meeting a guide, which can be tough, making a plan, going on the journey, obviously, creating the vision, and then the really hard stuff of just taking the action, setting, like last time we talked about, creating systems really that kind of push you forward on your actions and make sure you do it, and then make a list of the obstacles so that you can overcome them. And then we finally win the battle. We slay the dragon, we face our fears, we achieve our goal. That's where we are. So this is the final step, which is really kind of, not to get too much into the aspects of the book, because the first part of the book is really like, the hero's journey is really used as the internal journey, because the hero's journey, there's kind of the exterior journey and the interior journey. So the first part is kind of the interior journey. And we talk about these 3 steps: surrender, forgive, practice, and repeat. And that's really about, those are kind of the action plans that would be step 3 that you implement. But I think I really use them as kind of like the interior plan for all of them. Like I'll go through those things and then also create my milestones. Because I think part of this winning the battle is always deals with like a surrender, a change of beliefs, which can be seen as the dark night of the soul. Like sometimes changing beliefs and letting go of things is really tough. So you're going to have to go through that process. Then you're going to have to, forgiveness is usually a part of it, is like forgiving yourself for not doing it earlier, forgiving people who've stopped you. I think forgiveness is a piece of that. And then the third piece is setting in those practices that really make this a system, because that's so key, is systemizing it, and then your chances are so much likely. So that's where we are. We do those things, and then we end up getting our goal, whatever version that takes for us. Sometimes goals can shift, and I think there should be some flexibility in all this stuff. Like with your action plans, like you're going to do an action plan and it may shift, it may change. So that's part of it, is being flexible, not making sure everything's perfect. Even with your goal, you may have to change some stuff, or maybe it goes this way or that way a little bit. Maybe you decide you don't want to do it, but you learn that. That's a win. Or maybe you, veer this way and need a little more time, or find some different version of it. All those are wins, because you're kind of like really figuring out who you are more and you're clarifying your vision, clarifying what you want. So that's an important part, is winning and kind of doing that stuff. So that's the first part. You win the battle, whatever that battle is for you, slaying that dragon. And there's, like I said, there's an external piece and then the internal piece. And I think that really leads us to this next part, transformation. That's really what this whole thing's been about, is like your goal making you the person that ultimately you want to be, and bringing out the better parts of yourself. That's really the whole first part of this book, is living from your true self, your best self, your lighter self, and kind of bringing that forward. And so that is what the transformation we're looking for, So I think that is really the amazing part about stories. And that's really, you're getting that exterior thing, but it's really who you're becoming on the way to getting that. So that's really what we're looking for. And some, to use some examples that I use in the book. Star Wars, of course, blows up the Death Star, turns his father back to the good side. So that's obviously a transformation for that character. But then Luke becomes a Jedi. But also, just if you look at Luke's transformation and kind of his calm that he goes about things later versus in the beginning, that transformation. Another one that I love is Marty McFly. He gets back and sets things right, and his whole world's been transformed. Especially, you really use an example, is his dad. And his dad, through standing up to Biff and kind of what that did for him internally and externally, his whole life's been transformed. So that's what we're kind of looking for. And, so I think it's good to think about when we're writing this out, when we're creating this, is like, what is that victory scene for you look like? What does winning that battle look like? Because sometimes we can get something, but we don't really know. So I think clarifying, like, what does that look like for you? How do we celebrate that? How do we celebrate if we win? How do we know that we've, some of them aren't as tangible as slaying a dragon. So I think get clear about what that win looks like for you. And then I try to write something like, how am I going to celebrate it? And then the transformation. What's the transformation? What is this thing really about? What's the transformation we're looking for? And so for me, that victory scene looks like reaching my goals, fitness-wise, health-wise. I'm eating right way, my body feels strong. Literally like an after picture or something like that I'm like, there it is, So that's like a tangible thing that I can set. So that's kind of that victory scene, and I'm going to celebrate it with my family. I tend to like always think like my celebration things is like going to dinner with my family. I don't know, that's a lot of my celebration. And then for the transformation is really obviously the physical strength, but just the mental strength of knowing I did it, feeling lighter physically, feeling stronger, the confidence that will come with that, and just keeping my word to myself and all that stuff. So that's what I'm looking for transformation wise. And with that, I want to add on here, we had a friend over, one of my wife's best friend from college, and she'd actually been listening to all these, so she was talking to me about them. And as I was talking to her, I was thinking, how light she was, and she'd been through some hard times and hard season. And on this side, she was just light. And she was talking about how like sometimes when she's having like a hard time, she'll just say to herself, like, of course you are. You've had some stressful stuff. It's okay. So just being kind to yourself. And I was thinking about that with this, and the whole point of your goals. I feel like sometimes my goal with me, the whole point, like I was saying with the book, is to make our lives lighter. To make us the people who walk through the world a little lighter, a little stronger, and kind of a little bit more, what I would say in the book is like living from our best selves, our souls, and kind of like bringing those best pieces of ourselves out. But I really like that idea of like lightness, because sometimes my goals, can feel like burdens to me, and they are hard. I'm not saying they're not hard. Like, they're hard. We got to overcome obstacles, but I also don't want it to just be this thing that weighs me down, and these shackles that just weigh me down. I want there to be some freedom and lightness. That's why I use word in the books like adventure and the road to your I call all this kind of journey like your map, because you're on an adventure and it makes it fun. And so I just want to throwing that out there, because I feel like there's kind of stuff where just like you got to keep going and da 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 da. I want to keep conscious that ultimately these things should make us a more loving person, more free person, and all that stuff. So let's keep that in mind and not make just goal setting such a burden, but an adventure. So hope that makes sense. Thanks so much. This has been a good journey. I've enjoyed, kind of going through the What's Running Your Heroes journey with y'all. So tune back in, and thanks so much. Appreciate you.